Welcome back to BTF, the show where we try and take a factual approach to looking at some of the most popular social issues popping up on our social media feeds.
Today we're going to be talking about a big issue that's been popping up in my feed a lot at least, and that is women in sport, particularly here in Australia. As Australians, we're a sporting nation. We pride ourselves on being really good at sport. So you can see here we've got a bunch of articles, Australian articles about sport, especially women, women in different sports, women's pay issues, women's popularity of women's sports and how they're being promoted. We've got government documents on how to get more older and younger women participating in sport. You can see that it is a big and popular issue.
However, when we see this issue pop up on our feed, it's usually not factual accounts based on research. It's often very emotional posts supporting someone's really strong views. We're going to break this video down into two parts. So, women in sport on a national level, which will mostly be looking at the gender pay gap and issues surrounding that, and women in sport on a more personal or local level, which is mostly surrounding women's participation in sport. We know there are gender pay gaps across many industries in Australia. However, sport actually has one of the biggest gaps. A great example of this is basketball. So last year the top WNBA contract was $117,000, whereas the top men's contract was actually $37 million. This means women are only getting 0.3% of what the men are getting.
Why?
On social media, you will often see people saying women should not be paid the same as men because physically they are different and couldn't compete with them, or you'll see people saying they should be paid the same as men because they are trying just as hard, working as hard, and are at the top of their field. Let's see what some others had to say.
Alright, do you think women professional athletes should earn the same as male professional athletes?
If the sport is bringing in the same...
Do you think professional female and male athletes should be paid the same?
No,
Why not?
because guys play a better game.
Alright, Sarah, do you think professional female athletes should be paid the same as professional male athletes?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Because people would generally always prefer to watch the male sports, and therefore they bring in more money, I guess, because people pay to go watch them on TV more than they'll watch females, so they should be paid higher.
As Sarah said, comparing the revenue of male and female sports has been spoken a lot about lately. One recent example of this is the Women's World Cup in soccer. People were outraged when they found out how little the women won in prize money compared to the men, especially in cases like USA and Australia, when the women teams actually placed much better. Business Insider shows us that actually, even though the women were paid less, this is because the Women's World Cup brought in $17 million in revenue, while the Men's World Cup brought in $529 million in revenue. So you can see that there is a big disparity in the amount of money coming into their sport. However, the issue is more complicated than this again, as it can be very difficult for women to get their foot in the door sometimes, because all of the leadership in these high-up sporting associations are often run by men. As you can see in this graph, the percentage of male to females in these leadership committees and things is all male, so you can see how it'd be harder to get women's sport promoted and recognised when it's a completely male-dominated industry. So as you can see, it's a pretty complicated issue.
It's complicated!
Now, the second part of women in sport in Australia that we're going to talk about is personal, so how this can affect us personally, because most of us, including myself, aren't really professional athletes or anything close. But you can see how, if you as a child never watched women play sport on TV, or you never really heard of women in sport, you can see how as a woman you would think, that's not really for me. So it would affect our levels of participation in the sport. So that's mainly what we're going to focus on for the second part of the video, so participating in sport. Due to my lack of sporting prowess, I didn't actually know there are any benefits to sport other than physically making you stronger and fitter. But when I did some research, it turns out that there were a whole heap. Now, the first benefit of sport you wouldn't really have to be a genius to know. It improves your physical health, your cardiovascular health. It decreases your chance of having a heart attack, getting diabetes, all sorts of things. So there's already a lot of benefits there, but it does more than help you physically. So it also improves your intellectual ability. A study found that people who played sport in high school consistently got better GPAs than those who didn't. Now, GPA is the American form of ATAR. Another one is that it decreases your likelihood of depression and anxiety. And in a modern world where mental health issues are so prevalent, this was just a massive shock to me. So kids who played sport had better mental health than those who didn't. And this was even true for people who had suffered significant traumas in their early childhood. Another one that I didn't know is that people who play a lot of sport are less likely to use and get addicted to drugs and less likely to fall pregnant as a teenager. And then the last one is it has many career benefits. So because team sport teaches you so many great skills such as social skills and leadership and teamwork, it actually helps you in your career as well, one study showed. So there are heaps of benefits of participating in a sport.
So it really looks like we should all be playing much more team sport.
That is genius!
So now that we know how beneficial and how important it is for all of us, including women, to be involved in sport, let's have a look at some statistics about Australian women and their participation in sport. Now, the first thing I've got is from a government document about women and girls' participation in sport, and it's showing how women play significantly less, well, in some age groups anyway, significantly less team sports than men. While they are often nearly as active, women do things more alone, such as jogging or walking, than men, and this does have physical benefits, but it doesn't have all the mental and social benefits that team sport provides, which is why it's so important for women to be doing team sports. Another article that I've got a reference to at the end, if you're looking for more information, says that huge amounts of girls are quitting sport by the age of 15. So from this 15 to 20-year-old age gap, we have very few women in sport. And the last concerning statistic was actually brought to our attention by a study that Pantene did, says that 57% of women will give up sport by the age of 25. So they've actually started a campaign to try and encourage women to keep playing sport longer and to stay stronger because it is so important.
This is actually an issue that I have a little bit of experience in because I'm involved in running a basketball competition at the college that I attend.
And despite the general statistics, in the comp here, we actually have slightly more female teams than male teams, and a fair number of teams that include a lot of women that are over the age of 25.
This just once again goes to show how complicated the issue is, because even though these statistics are true, it's not going to be the same for every area and every competition.
If you want to look into anything that I've said today, here's my list of references, but that's the end of this video. Be sure to tune in next time.